Dina K and Buddy, you're wondering if lions move their den a little bit more than leopards do. It depends on what's happening around in the area. If there's lots of other predators around, they can move it quite regularly. But if they've got a stable territory and they're not too worried about other lions coming in, maybe hyenas, they can move it quite regularly. But it's normally in those in the first little while when the cubs are quite vulnerable that they will move it quite regularly, because obviously if they get found, they're done for. So the females can move it even in a small little space in the same lugger. It seems like these lionesses have used this big lugger that they're lying next to as a good place for their den, and you very often have little caves on the sides of the embankment that they'll maybe just stash them in as they move off. And the cubs are normally actually fantastic at just staying still and quiet within that hole where they've been left by mom, and then she'll come back with the contact calling and call them out, and that's when they then relax and start to play. But folks, continuing with Cat Today, let's send you on back to South Africa and Djuma with another rosetted cat and Tristan.
Well, we're going to try and hopefully find a cat to support the Cat Day celebrations from the Mara side of things, but we've got something that the cats seem to love, those in the Mara more so than our ones down here in South Africa, but they are something that our leopards would hunt, and Thamba and Hosanna are slowly going to develop to be able to one day catch even big warthogs like this. Now, both of these warthogs have been mud wallowing, so they've been at Chelapan just having a good wallow, and well, there we go. What can be said about that, other than that a warthog defecates a rather large caliber for its size. It's definitely not a small pile of droppings when they decide to go to the toilet, and often can confuse people quite quickly. But after a wallow, it's just toilet time. Better there than in the mud wallow itself, where other animals would come and drink and lie in. So at least it's got some semblance of manners that is in that area. Right. But they are probably going to try and find some shade. We're still looking around for any signs of any of these leopard tracks that could be in this area. I did not Nyala Road north and south in case Thamba went that side, because he used to like that area, and so he used to spend a lot of time around Nyala Roads south and north, and so it was worth just checking that area. Now, Aunt Jo, you want to know what is the best thing about being a guide out here in Africa? Ooh, there's so many things that make it an incredible thing. For me, I suppose it's just being out and not being behind a sort of computer or a desk in any way. It's to be out in the fresh air and to be privileged enough to spend time amongst animals that are some of the most well-known and unique animals in the world, and things that a lot of people come from all over to be able to come and see, and for us to be able to then just sit here and spend time with them in long periods of time is probably a very special thing. So being outside while being able to witness what they do and try and kind of get used to get to learn their behavior and those kind of things is a very special thing. Right, well, it seems as though I haven't had luck, but Noelle seems to have struck gold, and seems as though she has found something. So without further ado, let's head across to her.
Sorry guys, having a little bit of trouble with my audio. I hope you can hear me now. Listen to Shadow's youngster. We're so excited. We just found her. She's calling for her mother. Oh, beautiful, everyone, beautiful. Just having a look around as she's calling. we all hear this? I'm so happy you all can hear this. It's amazing. When we were looking for her just now, she was doing louder calls. Absolutely incredible. I'm going to let her walk behind us a little bit, and then I'm going to turn the car. Oh, listen. Guys, to be honest with you, I thought it was the cub as we just came up, but now that it's come out, it might actually be Shadow herself. Shadow's a little bit smaller than Tundi. It is Shadow, definitely. It is Shadow. So there we go. Shadow's calling for her cubs. Sorry, I got so excited when we found her. And then Paula, I think, when will Shadow's cub start calling? And in scenarios like this, the cub will call back. But she's not going to start territorial auto. Oh, sorry, Paula, I messed up your question. Please excuse me. Paula, do I think Shadow's cub is near independence? No, Paula, I don't. 2 years. 2 years is independence, roughly. So incredible. Oh, gorgeous. There's your screenshot, everybody. Ali, really good question. You're asking why Shadow and Tundi are fighting over territory. Ali, the Karula has passed on, as we know, unfortunately. And even if she hadn't passed on, when a female leopard has a female cub that reaches independence around 2 years old, part of her territory will go to that female, and then part of the territory will be with into a different area. And so they're fighting over the gap that has been created by Karula passing on. Guys, I'm sorry, I'm so excited with this sighting that I'm losing my brain a little bit. I just want to turn around so that we can follow her. Now, we talked about this before. Same road, and I had a Shadow on this road, and we talked about how leopards usually like to be followed from the side. Because of the thickness and the denseness on this road, I'm going to have to follow her from behind, which means I just need to give her a little bit more space. One of the her down towards the Milwaukee, straight ahead of us. So if she's going down the road, she'll find her youngster. If she stays around this area, the call might be loud enough or far enough and reach far enough for the youngster to hear. We're just going to have to wait and see. So it's interesting for me, when Shadow popped her head up, she looked so teeny tiny, and that's one of the reasons why I thought it was the cub. And then you saw when she moved, you could see how her body's a bit bigger. Dina, I believe you're saying this is the first time you've heard a leopard call, how different it is from a lion. So this is a contact call that Shadow's doing. A lion contact call would go, ooh. Listen. So that's a sawing sound, usually meant for territory, but that pitch and that shortness is calling her cub. Then the other ones, the softer, quieter ones, are the ones that's trying to call the cub in. So a female lion will go, ooh, and a male lion as well, ooh, ooh, ooh. And then if they can't, they're not getting a response from the cub, it's more of a, ooh, ooh, like that. Just gonna pull up alongside. I'm gonna get some really nice views on her. All right, it seems as if we've got a little bit of gremlins hitting us. I'm so sorry today, but we have our leopard. We're not gonna go anywhere anytime soon. Oh, the signal is back. Nope, the signal has gone. I'm so sorry, everybody. I think while we sort this out, let's head over to Ralph, who has a lion cub up in the Mara, and then hopefully our signal will stabilize and we can come back to us.
Thanks, Noel. And yes, well, we're still sitting with this pride of lions, and the little youngsters seem like they're also nodding off to sleep a little bit. There we go. That one, it was just a little bit too much for him, wasn't it? Him or her, I'm not quite sure at the moment. And the other two also look like they're nodding off. There we go, doing what lions do best. I'm sure it won't be long before that one has also fallen over on its side. But nice to see them up and alert a little bit earlier. Look at that. Which way is he going to go? I wonder if he's going to fall off asleep again. But the rain approaching, so I wonder if they might wait. There he goes. Nearly. The rain approaching. I'm sure that might wake them up a little bit. Won't be as comfortable as it is now. We've got a few drops falling at the moment, so hopefully it's going to pass us. We won't have to drop our sides. Little youngsters still suckling there, and there's a little bit more of them now. I think there's two there. They're both having a drink. Scarlett, you're wondering at what age will they stop suckling? It's normally at around 6 months. So, like the hyena where we were this morning, their cubs go to about 18 months. But with lions, they can start to be weaned at about 6, and so it's a lot earlier. Well, hyenas are quite unusual with the carnivores or the predators, and that they suckle for so long. With lions, it's quite quick actually, and they start getting onto the meat, and also they start to get very sharp teeth. So I think it's very uncomfortable for mom, and they do start fighting over her mammary glands and the nipples. And there we see they can actually have a full go at each other. It's almost like they're at a kill site, and they can get quite cross. So, folks, once again, let's continue the theme of Catterday, and we're going to send you all the way back on down south to Noel, who has got a calling leopard.
Ralph, exactly. It's cat day for sure. So we found a little bit of a gap here. Because she's moving in zigzags and calling, we're just trying to get a space where we can move the vehicle easily and still see her. So you can see, I mean, look how well she camouflages inside of here. The only reason that Davi and I found her is because she started calling. And she was in some thick, thick, thick bush. Now, I keep willpowering her to head down towards Twin Dams, where hopefully she can hear. Yeah, here she comes. Amazing. We've got another vehicle that's going to be possibly joining us. Ludmila, you're asking, do female leopards ever saw like male leopards for territorial reasons? Ludmila, that is 150% correct. They do. Leopards are very territorial, both the male and the female. Alright, she's going to head back, so we're also going to move backwards. Yeah, the audio, everyone, is so good. So we're having a little mixture of me talking and also being quiet just so we can hear her. And we are going to keep doing that sort of back and forth, because this is a really interesting sighting behavior-wise, but it's also just an interesting sighting, sorry, Jigga, to listen to as well. Oh, my goodness gracious, I don't know what is going on today, but there's something in the air, that's for sure. Sorry for the back of my head. I just want to see if we can make a nice little swing through here. Where are you going to go, my friend? Let me just pull a little bit more forward. Davi, let me know. Alright, let's try here for now. Do you want me to go a little bit back?
Should be alright.
Okay. Sorry, I still have my photographer brain on, so when there's like a piece of grass in front of the leopard's face, I'm like, no! Oh, it's beautiful. Shelley, really good question. You'd like to know, oh, listen. You'd like to know how far can her call carry? Lionesses or a male lion contact call can go up to 4 kilometers in the right weather conditions. Female leopards will be about 1 kilometer, if a little bit less. She doesn't want to draw too much attention to the fact that she's looking for her cub, to be honest. Okay, for any of you that might be a little bit heartbroken right now, I want you to have faith because she will find her cub. 99.9 times out of 10, they or out of 100, let's say, they do find. She is going to smell around. It might just take her a little bit longer. So for some of us, it might be a little bit hard to watch. For some of us, this is also just extremely interesting, but I don't want anyone to worry. We're gonna do some good stuff here. Ellie, you'd like to know, can a leopard child, understand the mom's call from another leopard? 100%. It's just like humans. I know my mom's voice anywhere, or anyone that you're close to, you know their voice anywhere. It's the same. Their voices all have different pitches. Actually, the woman that I was helping out doing leopard research with many years ago, she found, sort of by accident, at the end of the territorial calls between the male and the female, those sawing noises that I can't repeat very well, at the end there's like a little up or down, or it's like a fingerprint, and it's unique to every single leopard, audio wise. So definitely. Oh, sorry, I have to duck down a little bit. She will figure out soon, hopefully, that there's a little bit of scent marking, scratching her feet. Now, another aspect to this that we haven't touched on yet is that remember that her cub is at an age where she's trying to... Oh, listen. She's trying to not assert her independence, but she's got more of a personality and is feeling more comfortable with herself. And so she will do things like sometimes wander off a little bit, and then mom will be a little bit more frantic like she is now. Basically, this is the equivalent of you're on your street corner and your mother's calling you, and finally you start getting that piercing whistle. My mom used to do the 2 fingers in the mouth, that really high-pitched whistle that you could hear for miles and miles around. That's what's starting to happen here. She's like, come home! It's enough now! I've been calling you all afternoon, it's dinner time! Now she's grumbling to herself a little bit, like, oh, my stupid child. Why won't she hear me? She's not listening. Beautiful scenes coming in. So she's coming around behind the side here, and we're gonna let her do that. It actually looks like she hasn't eaten in a while. We might get lucky. She might hunt today. Dee Dee, you want to know how come Shadow is not bothered by us at all and us driving around and where we're positioned and all that? She's used to us, Dee Dee. We're part of her natural environment, and as long as we respect her space bubble and she respects ours, we work in conjunction with each other. So she sees us the way she would see like a huge giraffe or a damn wall. Like she knows, listen. She's getting angry now. She's like, child, I've been calling you for a while. So she's happy for us to be here, and she'll let us know if we do something that's not okay with her, and vice versa. They're not tame animals, they're wild animals, but we've worked for a very long time, for generation after generation after generation, to be able to have them see us as part of their natural environment. I think for anyone that hasn't been part of that type of work, it's really difficult to understand because we know that we're not the best mammals, and so it's hard for us to understand that. Eloise, you want to know, do leopards mourn? And this is actually a really interesting question. I just want to see what she does before we reposition. Eloise, I used to work with a female leopard north from here many years ago. This would have been about 9 or 10 years ago. And she was very similar to Karula. She was super, super relaxed. Her name was actually Ishongili, so similar to Karula's offspring, Hassana's sister. And she had set of cubs, 3 cubs, 2 of which were killed by lions. And one morning, my dear friend found her out on game drive, and she was walking with a cub in her mouth and then putting it down and then walking and then calling it, similar to those low calls we heard, and the cub wasn't moving. And then she was doing that. She did that for maybe an hour or 2. Basically what had happened is the lions had killed this last cub, and she was so, what we could tell from the sighting, she was desperately trying to sort of see that it wasn't dead, like she wanted it to still be alive. So yes, I do think there's a bit of mourning in there. The next day, you know, she carried on and went about her life, and she was in a bit of a bad mood for a while, but I don't think that it was forgotten quickly, but I don't think it was mourned, say, as long as we would mourn. But I do think that there's definitely some attachment there, for sure. All right. So Tristan's still looking for Thamba. He was very disappointed I didn't find Thamba for him this morning, so I'm hoping that he finds Thamba for himself and for all of you. And we are going to reposition around Shadow and see what we can get, so head on over to him, and then when we get back, hopefully we still have visual.
Well, no luck on Thamba yet. We're now just checking the Mulawati, because I managed to speak to Noel and Herbie, and they both think that even though his tracks kind of went north of the dam, that he might have circled back into the Mulawati itself. So just trying to check all the way along in all the, like I say, all the places that he's spent time before, but so far not a single track that we can find anywhere in these areas. So we're just having a look around and hoping for the best. It's also nice and cool down here in the Mulawati, which is fantastic, so it's nice to be in here. Certainly is better than being in the baking sun out on somewhere like quarantine. So thoroughly enjoying just driving around inside here, and it's also a place where lots of other things can happen. So we have a good opportunity to see some nice birds inside here, often find antelope species also seeking shade, much like what we're doing in a way. So it's a good place to check. Right, now I believe the gremlins are slowly starting to attack us, so I'm going to just stop right here and send you all the way back to Ralph, who I think is searching for some feathered friends.
Yes, everybody, and the reason I stopped here is because, look, we've got these hornbills that are feeding on a tortoise, but the reason actually that I stopped was because there was a rather large bird mobbing them, and then they had to go back at the bird that was mobbing them. Oh, here he comes. Here he comes. And in fact, this is a palm nut vulture. And that is, look at that now. Now, between the ground hornbills and this palm nut vulture, I think they're maybe fighting over that tortoise. That maybe the palm nut vulture wants a piece of it, and these hornbills are having none of it. Very rare birds, both of these. So fantastic to see them both and having a go at each other to boot. But I think it's all down to that tortoise. A little bit of meat that's going around, and I think the palm nut vulture doesn't stand a chance with these guys. But I think I am going to start up and maybe get a little bit closer to them, and then we can see a little bit better. So 1 second as I just get a little bit closer. The reason I stopped here quite far away was because that palm nut vulture had actually stopped in the flown into the tree just next to us, and I think he might have flown into the tree over there just off to our right again. So I'm just going to get a little bit closer, and we can then watch these ground hornbills feeding on this tortoise, and maybe the palm nut vulture will come back. I'm just going to stop here. Sorry about that, Craig. Sinak, you're wondering if the palm nut vulture is only found in Kenya? No, Sinak, it's not. We also get some places in South Africa where we get them too, but they're mainly down to tropical areas. As the name suggests, palm nut vulture, they do live in the oil palm tree, and they feed mainly on the fruit of the palm, and that's why they're called exactly that. But they will have a go at insects and arthropods, and obviously here as well, he's hiding behind that branch. We might see him again come down and have a go at this ground hornbills with their quarry, and a little bit across over there We've also got some hyena moving through, as the topi indicated for us. They just gave a little bit of a snort. So there's all sorts happening out here on this side. We've just left the lions. Aidan, who is 6 years old, thanks very much for your question. How does a bird learn to fly? Well, Aidan, you know what? Mommy and Daddy, they take the little bird out onto the branch and they show it how to flap its wings, and they wait for exactly the right time, when the little baby is just old enough and strong enough, and they need to sometimes push him off the branch, and he learns to fly all on his own. But they do show him how to flap his wings, but sometimes he can land on the ground, and then maybe he has to try and climb back up the tree to try again. But they can sometimes not learn the first time, and then they have to try again. But it's all down to the parents showing their little youngster how to fly, flapping the wings, and then the rest comes quite easily to him. So Aidan, it's a lot like how you learn to walk. Remember how you learned to walk? I don't think you did, do you? And what happens is you learn to crawl, and then just one day you stand up and you walk. And it's very much the same with birds. They find it difficult in the beginning, and then all of a sudden one day they jump off the branch and fly off. But look at this ground hornbill having a real go at this tortoise. It's obvious that the tortoise is dead, but ground hornbills I've actually seen quite a lot eating tortoises, and I've seen other hornbills eating tortoises as well. But look at that spear of a bill. He's really getting into it. That's wonderful. And not very nice for the tortoise, obviously, but look how he's using that as a weapon, and now holding it with his talons. Now, T, you want to know if the hornbill subdues the tortoise quickly? Well, I think it's quite easy with that. Sorry, P, not T. P, look at that spear of a bill. He's obviously spiked it quite quickly. I don't know if it's a tortoise or a terrapin. It actually looks like a terrapin now. He's obviously spiked it to death with his bill. And so I think he does subdue it quite quickly. Probably spikes it a few times, and that's the end of the terrapin. And now he can try and pick out the meat out of the inside of the shell. It's quite difficult to get on the inside there. Cenac, you want to know if they ever feed on carrion? Well, Cenac, I didn't think so. But the other day when we were sitting next to the lions who had killed a hippo, and they were lying next to it for a few days, and the hippo must have been getting quite rotten, the hornbills came over, and I didn't get to see them eating on the carcass of the hippo, but the vultures and the bataleur and the ground hornbills were all waiting for the lions to move away. And so were the jackals and the hyenas on the ground, but hornbills will also get involved in the carcass there, as this one is doing here with this terrapin. Look at how sharp that is. Now, folks, it is just starting to rain a little bit, so it might not be long before we need to also put up our covers, but we'll just try as long as we can to watch this, because it's very exciting. So, folks, I think it is coming down a little bit harder now, so I think we'll send you off back down to Noel, who is still with a very exciting view of shadow.
All right, well, it sounds if it's rainy and stormy up in the Mara. Brent's shut down because of lightning, and Ralph seems to have hit some rain. It is hot and sunny still here. We have 2 other vehicles that have joined us in the sighting. We did a nice little while just by ourselves, and she's found a shady spot. I think she's a bit tired out because it's so hot, and she's been wandering around looking for her youngster. So she's still calling a bit. You can see there. It's going to be a little bit harder to hear just because we have the other guides also explaining to their guests about what's going on. And she's probably done a radius of, I would say, 200 meters, zigzagging and circling just in this little spot. And all of this is happening around the same area that Steve had Tundi and Shadow's youngster in the same sighting this morning here by Weaver's Nest. Tommy Two Shoes, really interesting question. You're asking if a male leopard would investigate if he heard her. Absolutely. Absolutely. Leopards are curious just in general, but now you have this call that's going and going and going and going and going. There would definitely be some sort of investigation. Now, Hassana was seen with Shadow and the youngster not far south from here for a couple of days because of a kill that Shadow made. And then we were trying to track Thamba this morning, and Herbie and I were thinking he possibly moved south, so he might pitch up. Tingana was not far from here when Davi and I got him after we wrapped drive the other day. He did move into Simbambili, but you never know. I haven't seen him in Vula for a while. He pops up wherever. So yeah, that's definitely possible. So it wouldn't just be an investigation because of the sound. It would also be an investigation with, people that like to stir the pot. Sometimes leopards like to stir the pot. So there would be a bit of that. Now, she would be very annoyed if a male rocked up. Not only is she annoyed that her cub's not listening and coming to her, but if a male rocked up, she would be sort of beside herself a bit because now she's got this male that could potentially be a threat to her youngster. But she would also be probably a bit off with Tundi as well if Tundi popped up. So even though Tundi and Shadow are related, if Shadow were to find Tundi's cub on its own, that doesn't mean that Shadow would be nice to it. And if Tundi were to find Shadow's older cub on its own, that does not mean that Tundi would be nice to it. So both mothers need to be very careful of their children with each other and other leopards as well. That's not to say that something horrible would happen all the time, but it's a general consensus with leopards that you want your territory and your habitat for you and your offspring, no one else's. There she goes again. She really is a beautiful, beautiful girl. Listen. Notice how she put her face close there? Helps magnify the sound, even though she's got a movable voice box inside, similar to lions, and can magnify the sound herself. She is lying down, so putting her face down like that also helps. Oh my goodness, apparently Ralph has a hornbill feeding on a tortoise. That's absolutely incredible. I think let's head back up to him and watch more of that. Such an amazing sighting, and we'll sit here with Shadow and see you all soon.
Thanks, Noel, and this has been really interesting. This hornbill seemed to have got in the back end of this terrapin, and it started to pull out what seemed to be eggs. So it seems like this hornbill's having quite a meal of this. It had quite a few eggs that it's now just thrown into the back of its throat, and having a real go at it. This is turning out to be quite a nice meal for this hornbill. And the other two have moved off, and the palm nut vulture is keeping his distance for now as well. There, just off in the corner, you can see another one. Maybe they've had a bit of a feed on it already, and so they've continued on. Otherwise, this one has dominated this meal. He's saying that that's his, and the rest can go look for their own food. But wonderful to watch him actually feeding on it. Paula, you want to know if the male or female has a red throat? Well, with the ground hornbills, actually both of them do, and it's not so easy to tell the difference. And I'm just going to pull it up in the book so that you can have a quick look. But both of them do have the red throat, and there's just slight subtle differences between them. But you can see juvenile quite easily because they don't have that very striking red color. But I'm just going to get here in the book, and you can see then very slight differences between the male and female. And we'll show it here with Craig. So the female there, she's got red on the throat, but it's a little bit smaller than with the male. So he's got just quite a bit bigger and obviously a little bit more elaborate. But that's the only difference, and the juvenile being slightly off yellow color. So just slight differences there between male and female. So it's not just down to which one has red, it's actually the size of the red. Anyway, he's still going at his meal there, getting right on the inside of that shell. It's awesome. The palm nut vulture still keeping his distance off in the tree, but wow, look at this. Really spearing at it, and look how he really winds up before he stabs into it. Quite difficult. I mean, think you're trying to get food out just with 2 fingers, which is basically what his bill is. So that's why I could understand when he just now put his foot on it and then tried to pull it like that. That would be a little bit easier, I think. There, get your foot on it. Hold it down. And he's really getting a few pieces, and then he throws it all the way into the back of his throat. You see now, that's where the trouble comes. He's got to hold it down and then pull at it. I suppose that's where real intelligence starts to show, when you see animals using tools and things to access their food, like otters would do, and baboons putting their little straw or grass down a termite mound and pulling it up. And with otters, they can hold some mussels on their chest and then hit them with stones. But this hornbill, obviously, he's managed to get in the back end and get a few pieces of meat off, but it's quite difficult. A very sharp bill, that. Look how he's going for the angle. But as he hits it, it moves forward. So there we go. You see, that seems like the whole egg pouch coming through there. Oh, what's Craig spotted there? I think up in the tree. And there's now a hornbill that's jumped into the tree, I think. And the silhouette, the top one there, is the palm nut vulture. It's a juvenile. Maybe that hornbill wants to get rid of him completely. Maybe he's not happy that palm nut vulture's hanging around. He's having a look at him. But there we go. It's also a little bit of competition between very similar sort of birds that eat similar things. It's kind of like, you know, between hyena and lions, competition for the same kind of resources. And hornbills and palm nut vulture, you could say, doing the same. Well, from predators of the birds and the sky, let's head you on back to Noel, who I think is still watching Shadow. How wonderful.
How amazing are those juvenile palm nut vultures with Ralph? So incredible. Just excuse the noise behind us. We just have some of the game drive vehicles moving past us on the other side. She has come up on this log, and everyone, this is going to be your screenshots for the day. Look how lovely she's sitting. Look how relaxed she's sitting. She's still in the shade. She's got a little bit more height over the grass than before, and she has a little bit more visual as she puts her paws up like that to be able to call and to look around and possibly find her little one. Now, she has not moved more towards Twin Dams. She's moved a little bit farther away from Twin Dams. But I do think eventually, because it's so warm, Twin Dams and Baboon Pan are going to be the closest place for her to go get water. So I think that will be, oh, there we go, everybody. Now Mom needs a little bit of a rest. I think that it's all going to work out in the end. Now, the longest I've seen a cub of Shadow's youngster's age away from its mom is for 4 or 5 days. and it did just fine. It, ate things like mice and chased squirrels around, and she was okay. So as long as the cub doesn't move too much farther away from the Milwaukee and this spot, she'll be all good. I have a sneaking suspicion that one of the reasons why the cub is not hearing mom is not just the little bit of a distance, but also because it's hot and she's probably sleeping, and she's probably thinking, oh, when it's time, I will get up and maybe go look for mom. Because remember, when the cub moved away, Tundi and Shadow were still busy having hissy fits with each other. Justina, interesting question. You're wondering how far a cub could wander off to. So, Justina, the farthest I've seen, usually what mums do is mums put their cubs somewhere and then go off, then come back and fetch them. The farthest from a spot that a mum has put a cub and then had to come back that I've seen a cub wander off is about half a kilometer. And any further than that can sometimes be a bit of trouble, but that's just me personally. I don't know, maybe we should ask Tristan next time we go to him if he's seen any cubs go off farther that were still found by their mums. Anyone that's gone off, especially the small cubs, farther than that can be an issue. Because Shadow's cub is a year old, and because she's still within a kilometer of her mum, it's not too far, it's not too bad of a scenario. And again, because of the altercation that happened between Shadow and Tundi today, that's why there's the discrepancy in the movement with that youngster. If there hadn't been that sort of altercation in that fight, I do think the cub would still be close to mum at this point. Yes, she is a beautiful leopard. I never get tired of looking at leopards. I also never get tired of finding them. I mean, you heard this afternoon when you came to us when we had her, I was full of excitement and couldn't even find my words. I'm still just excited as I was an hour ago. So I think while we're busy waiting here, let's head back to Ralph with some hornbills that are busy fighting, and I also hope that you get another visual of those, or view, I should say rather, of those juvenile palm nut vultures with Ralph. Enjoy.
Thanks, Noel. And look at this, everybody. This is wonderful interaction here. It looks like they're fighting. I'm wondering if it looks like a younger male that is fighting with an older one, but I'm not quite sure. It might be a female, the one on the left. And so it actually might be a bit of bonding, and we've got it all wrong. But also, we've now got a hyena that's moved in here very close to us. While those two are going at it, here's the hyena that's moved in for the terrapin. I don't think it's going to be as easy for him to get into that as it was with the hornbills. Maybe he's just going to roll on it. Maybe it is quite rotten, and so maybe it's nice and smelly for a hyena. And look at that. Ooh, there we go. And if he walks towards the back of the vehicle, I might just need to spin the bum around so that we can watch it. But otherwise, let me just do that, folks. Maybe that hyena's just going to walk off. I think he's going off with his prize. But let's turn the bum around and just have a look. There he is. He's still going to try and eat it, I think. Let's just put our bum like that, and then we'll be able to see him a bit better. I don't think you're going to get into that, my friend. You can try, but I think the hornbills are better adapted, or better equipped to be able to get in there. You've now stolen a meal that you can't really eat. You can maybe eat the head and the legs, but unless with the hyena's jaws you'll be able to crush that whole thing. Be interesting to see here what he does. Are you going to try and eat it? Quite difficult. I think all he did was get jealous because the hornbills were busy eating, and he's probably hungry, so look how he's trying. There now, the palm nut vulture is still interested in having a go. Look at that. I think it's still a juvenile. It hasn't got its full white yet, white and black. So it's still a little bit mottly, but definitely a palm nut vulture, hey? Very red around the eye. And he's very interested now and probably quite irritated that this hyena has come and stolen this food, because he was the one that was really trying to get it. And I'm sure sooner or later this hyena is going to move off. And then the palm nut vulture can have a go. Everybody's having a go at this little terrapin, I think it is. I'm still trying to work it out, but I think it was a terrapin. It seemed like his head was bent to the side, which is one of the characteristics of terrapin rather than tortoises. Tortoises pull their heads straight back, where terrapins push their head to the side when they try and get back into their shell. You're going to find that very difficult unless you crush it, buddy. You can see he's looking rather perplexed. He can smell it, he can taste it, but he just can't have it. There's wonderful light coming through at the moment as this storm is just holding off a little bit. Safari Dean, thanks for your comment. Yeah, well, that's down to the hyenas. They will try anything, won't they? And I wonder now, it seems he can't eat it, so maybe he'll just sleep next to it and hope that it somehow loses its shell. Maybe he'll stare at it for a little while. Safari Dream, you want to know if hyenas are such good hunters, why are they going hungry? Well, they don't always go hungry, but they're opportunists. They'll take what they can get, and I mean, this little meal here would have been easier than trying to hunt an animal yourself. So if you see some hornbills busy eating a tortoise or a terrapin, and it's very easy just to come over and steal it for yourself. So hyenas are very adept at energy efficiency. They don't need to hunt if they don't have to, and so, well, I think this might be a male, and he's probably a little bit of an outcast of one of the clans in the area, and so he'll take what he can get. Whereas when near to the clan, if they make a kill, he's going to be one of the last that gets any pieces of that, because the males are bottom of the pile. So I think he's just taking whatever. Albert, you're wondering if he'll bring it to the cubs? Yeah, probably not. Especially a male. Males are quite nomadic. They not by choice really. They sort of get chased around by the females, and so they're only allowed to go anywhere as far as the females allow them. So if he gets anything to eat, he'll probably eat it all himself, or as much as he can, before the other hyenas arrive. And no, he definitely won't be taking anything back to the cubs, because the cubs are looked after by their mommies and all the higher ranked females, and so they won't even allow the males near to the den site. So it definitely won't be taking food to the cubs. But he's having a look over towards the hornbills, and the palm nut vulture is still pacing up and down, hoping that this hyena is just going to leave this terrapin so that he can have his little go. Now, it is quite a special thing to see a palm nut vulture, and quite something else to see it walking around on the ground. This is absolutely amazing. I've only seen one palm nut vulture in my life, and he was in a palm tree in Cozy Bay in a very northeastern part of South Africa, right on the border of Mozambique. But this is sublime. Palm nut vulture walking around on the ground. Wonderful. Juvenile at that, so he's not full of his beautiful white and black, but he's nearly an adult. He's getting there, and that's still a beautiful sight all the same. And how was that? Two very rare birds fighting over the same food. That is absolutely spectacular. Maybe only one of the places in the world where you can see that, here in the Masai Mara and the Mara Triangle in specific. I think he's still looking around, wondering if that terrapin is lying here somewhere, because I think that's where it was when he was mobbing the hornbills. I don't know what he's having a go at there. It looks a little bit like elephant dung. Maybe there's some beetles and things inside it that he's just taking away. Oh, It looks like he's breaking it open. Maybe you can take it up into the tree and break it open there. Now, you see on the bill of this palm nut vulture, even though he's predominantly a vegetarian, he feeds a little bit on insects, and obviously here, wanting a big part of that tortoise, he wants to get some meat in his diet. But on the end of his bill is that little hook, and that obviously makes him part of the raptors. One of their characteristics that separates them from the rest. And his very clear red eye mask, which makes him a palm nut vulture. It's very small for a vulture, probably the smallest of the lot. You don't get many vultures that size. He's probably the size of a hardy-dar ibis. A little bit more body mass, but pretty much the same size, as he's sauntering over towards the hyena, who is now just sleeping next to the terrapin. But look at that, in that beautiful light as the sun pokes through. That's just made my day, that's made my week. It's one thing seeing cheetah and lions and all the kills and everything, but it's these kind of special little moments that us as guides really live for, really, because I've heard there's been quite a few questions to the other guides, what are the things that we find special? Well, here's an example where you've got two of the most rarest of birds fighting over the same piece of meat in exactly the same spot. Absolutely phenomenal. And a sauntering palm nut vulture. Fabulous. So, folks, from one special sighting to another, I'm going to send you on back down south to South Africa with Noel, who's watching Shadow the Leopard.
Ralph, your sighting's also making my week, even though I can't see it. It's really incredible. Shadow has gone a little bit quiet. The squirrels were going a little bit nutty, more towards Twin Dams, towards where we believe the youngster to be. And she was picking her head up and listening, and then she hasn't really called since then, so it's possible that the youngster is slowly making her way up this way. That being said, though, I don't really trust squirrels in the Lowveld. I trust squirrels more in places like South Wanga National Park, where they really call for leopards. Here, a squirrel, it's like the boy who cried wolf. And you follow it, and it's sometimes nothing, and it's sometimes a mongoose, and it's sometimes a bird of prey, and it's sometimes another squirrel. So we'll wait and see what happens. But she's listening intently, that's for sure. She's resting, but she's not napping heavy. Again, we can equate it to human mums. When you have smaller children that are playing and you sort of rest on the couch just for a little bit, you're not fully sleeping, you're just trying to conserve your energy for the craziness that's going to happen in a little while. And that's what she's doing. Now, what will be interesting when they do finally reconnect, and hopefully it will be with us on camera this evening, and I've seen this several times before, where they reconnect and they touch and groom each other, and then the mum will sort of growl and snarl and smack the little one around a bit. Ravinda, you're asking an interesting question. You're wondering, because leopards have such a good sense of smell, why doesn't she sniff out where the little one is, sort of like a bloodhound would, or a dog? From my own experience, it is more likely for them to find each other using audio sounds. Well, sounds is audio, using audio, than olfactory, than smelling sounds. It can be done, but now remember, there is a little bit of scent that's left from the pads on the feet when they go, but it's not enough for her to track that female the whole time. A lot of the smells that other leopards use with other leopards has to do with a bit of that smell from the pads, and then a lot of it is urine scent marking, and the youngster is not territorial yet and will not be scent marking. So much of the demarcation of a territory and finding other leopards has a lot to do with the sound as opposed to the smell. I don't think it's impossible for her to be able to do that, but it won't be her first choice. For wild dogs, you might see more of that, African wild dogs, than you would with say, a leopard. Earlier, Davi and I were talking about wanting to see elephants swimming. I was like, oh, if I watch elephants swim, it's so hot, I'm going to want to swim in the dam. Now Shadow's making me want to take a nap because we're sitting nicely in the shade and it's cooling down a little bit. And as it starts cooling down, she will start moving around again and start calling again. But also, as it's cooling down, other leopards are going to start moving around. So she has to be careful. It's sort of a toss-up. Does she keep calling and calling and calling and sort of wasting her energy, or does she conserve her energy a little bit now for when she's going to need it more throughout the cooler evening as she meanders about? And also, we were talking about earlier, it doesn't look like she's eaten recently. I think the last time she ate, and she ended up having to share it with Hasana and her youngster, was about 4 days ago. So she will also, when she finds her little one, she will also need to hunt tonight. She will need to hunt tonight, probably even if she doesn't find her little one right away. So she needs to conserve a bit of that energy that is lost while it's so hot. And you can see her breathing has changed a little bit. She's resting a bit heavier now, and also her temperature has gone down. It's not that heavy, rapid breathing from before. And some of you were commenting the other day how her limp seems to be gone. I also noticed that. That was another reason why I was like, oh, look, it's Shadow's youngster when she was walking. Her limp's not very heavy. Now, she's either heard or smelled something on the air that is attracting her. So that would be another way for her to sort of judge if her cub is close or not. That smell on the air will pick up as opposed to smell left by walking more so. Not that she can't do either, but more so. But then when it's a gusty, heavy wind like what's happening right now, sometimes it can be more confusing than helpful. Sinak, you're curious to know, are female leopards ever overly protective over their cubs? For sure. Most definitely. I have watched female leopards hectically fighting off other female leopards as well as male leopards to protect their cubs. I've also seen them do it with hyenas. And the most interesting one that I ever saw was 3 porcupines coming up the road and a female just a little bit bigger than Shadow trying to hunt these porcupines. And a cub that was about 5 months old was waiting farther up the road. So we were here and we could see down the road and we could see the 3 porcupines like this, and the mum was coming up like this, and the little cub was hidden behind a bush here. And the mum managed to get around this way and was trying to get the porcupines and turn them over, and that's how they killed them, because obviously the quills are an issue. And before the mum could get fully around and turn the porcupines all the way over, the little cub jumped out from behind the bush going, "Look, it's me!" And the porcupines came running up at that cub, and the mum very viciously was defending that cub and hissing and growling and sticking her claws out for it. I have seen with brown hyena and with spotted hyena mums doing a very similar thing, and I've seen mums go up a tree with little ones and be actively defending their young ones up there from lion. So yes, they are hectic mothers when it comes to that. That's a beautiful shot there. Notice how her ears are turned backwards towards where the wind is blowing from for the most part, and also in the direction from where we know that the youngster is. She will bring them forwards every now and then. Some of it has to do with the fact that she's probably a little bit annoyed, but it also has to do with where she's positioned her head to rest, and then it helps her hear from behind a little bit better. All right, I think let's head over to Tristan, who's having a little bit of a bumble, and see what he can find for us. And we will keep an eye on Shadow for you.
Well, we are bumbling about because we're having no luck finding tracks for any of these cats anywhere in these areas. We've gone around in circles, and I think I've driven about the same roads about 7 times now this afternoon, but yet no track that I can find. I have no idea where the last track of Thamba was. Noel and Herbie told me somewhere around this area, so just trying to see if I can pick up something. I see the 2 male lions that walked up here earlier, but nothing for Thamba as of yet. So what I'm going to try and do is just go and check towards Gallagher pan, see if maybe he's not lying that side. I believe his last tracks though cut eastwards, but I don't know exactly where, so it's a bit of a lottery driving around here. We're just trying our very best. The thing is it's been incredibly quiet otherwise. We have seen very little, very few birds this afternoon, very few animals. It's all been quiet. I actually haven't even seen any nice flowering plants. It's kind of been a little bit of a struggle for us, which means that we haven't been able to really do too much. At least though, everybody else seems to have had a successful drive, and at least we're not Brent, who's getting rained on and stuck in a river and now stuck in some village somewhere trying to get his way back. So at least we have a dry afternoon. It's always better to be dry than it is to be getting absolutely soaked. And I just want to quickly check on this junction to see if there isn't any sign. No, I don't. What's that? No, nothing that I can see. Right, let's go towards Gallagher Pan and see, maybe we get lucky here. It would be nice if he was just lying. Imagine if he was lying somewhere near the pan. Alarm calling just to my left here. Should we go investigate, Fildy? Let's go have a look quickly. It's just in a very shady kind of section close to the dam. So we're going to try and just quickly go and have a little look in here and see what's going on. So while I investigate, let's go back to somebody who has been far more successful and has actually found herself a leopard.
All right, I have some exciting news. Okay, so the vehicle that was parked just behind us went to leave. And they were leaving to go see something else. And they moved about 100 meters from us, and then they stopped. And then we were busy sitting here watching Shadow and telling stories to you. And then I was talking to Rexon, who's with his guest from Djuma, just the other side. And we were chatting about where this youngster is. And then Rexon says, wait, have a look. That other vehicle that left has just bumped into that youngster. So now we were talking about how Shadow hasn't moved. We were talking about those squirrels, and we're saying, oh, it could be this, it could be that. It looks as if the youngster did hear Mum, and what Mum's doing now is Mum can see where that youngster is. I believe that the youngster knows she's in a little bit of trouble. So Shadow's just laying here going, yep, okay. Finally found you. I'm not going to move a muscle. So Davi and I are going to stay put because I believe that eventually that youngster is going to slink up to Mum and try and give her lots of loves. And we've got a nice view here and a nice little open area, so we're going to wait and see. So if you all can be patient with us while this happens, I think that will be the best. We could technically move around and go and see, but we do have such a nice position. I don't really want to give it up. And I think that we're going to get a nice greeting here eventually, maybe within the next sort of 10 to 15 minutes. We can place bets on it, maybe. I know you guys all like a little bit of a bet. I'm going to say within the next 8 minutes. Davi, what do you say? Davi says 5 minutes. I don't know if any of you want to place some bets. And we'll see. Yays and so happies. Oh, Shadow, you're ruining the bet. You're moving. All right, guys, we're now going to have to move to keep up with her. Shadow, the bets, but that's okay. I'm glad all of you are happy. I am also super happy, and I know that Rexon and his guests are happy. So we are going to, I think, move back a bit and then come through. We're in a funny little area filled with stumps and half-dead logs. So, what I want to do is I'm going to move through here and position us so that we can get a nice round view between the two. Francis, you're saying 4 minutes? I like it. I like it. Nice getting in on the bet there, Francis. 4 minutes. So Farhad, you're saying 1 minute. I like it. Let me just get through everybody else's little spot here. And I'm going to turn around. And then we're going to see what we can do about for here we go. Davi, can you see Shadow through there? Okay, let's try this. And I'm going to look while Davi is keeping an eye on Shadow that sign. I'm going to see, there's the youngster. Here she comes right in front of us, 12 o'clock, running up to Mum, running up to Mum. Who said 4 minutes? Francis, you said 4 minutes. Here we go. Are we happy here, Davi, or do you want me to move? Perfect. Look at that. Look how annoyed Shadow is. Shadow's like, yeah, I'm forever. And the submissive behavior from the youngster. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Let's just come through a little bit of the gap here. You win, my friend. There we go. Perfect. Yay, reunited. Fantastic. There goes Shadow doing a little bit of territory marking. The youngsters just moved a little bit to the right there. Just behind that bush. I'm actually very surprised that Shadow didn't haul off and smack her. There's nice little backlighting that's happening now through the grass. Here comes the youngster again. Look at that. Mom, I love you. Mom's like, ugh. But also feeling relieved as a mother as well. Safari Hot, you're saying patience pays off. What a beautiful sight. It does indeed. I'm also glad we waited it out. Now, where we are, we're not too far from our southern boundary, so I'm guessing they're going to start moving that way. I'm going to stick with them as long as we possibly can. I just need to move the car to be able to do that. Hopefully she'll stay on Djuma gallery to be comfortable for her, and that will have to do with the type of territory that she's able to hold on to after Mr. Tundi has taken over quite a lot of the territory to our north here. Sorry everyone, I'm sorry for the back of my head, but again, I don't want to pull a Tristan and fall out the car, and I also don't want to hurt Jim. As that would be a problem. But I am going to do a little tiny bit of bundu bashing just now. I'm sorry, Kirsch, just say one more time with that question from Andy. Andy, really good question. You want to know why did the cub have to be submissive to Shadow, to its mom? If the cub were to come in and have a bit of an attitude and try and be more dominant, the mum would be very rude and straightforward. Oh, everyone, look at this with the youngster. This is basically the equivalent of the cub coming in and giving the mum a hug. So if you'd been missing from your mum for a little bit, you wouldn't necessarily want to. Ooh, Shadow sees something. It's not the vehicles, but she definitely sees something. I just want to keep an eye out. Remember, Tundi was here earlier. Or she smells something on the air, but it looks like she's definitely seen something. Nope, she's fine. Yeah, so if you hadn't seen your mum for a long time, and then you came up and didn't give her a hug, your mum would be pretty upset. So I just need to move a little bit so that these other guys can come through, and Rexon and I will leapfrog down the road and follow these two lovely ladies as they meet. Leopards, I love it. It's too much. So most of you will know what leapfrogging is. For anyone that's new, leapfrogging is the positioning of vehicles down the road so that we can share the sighting with each other. So now I'm going to pull off to the side while Rexon pulls forward so that his guests can also see. And then he's going to come past us and get a view, and then we'll keep leapfrogging like that. It's so magic, Rexon. So as you guys know, Rexon does a lot of our walks with us as well. And so Rex and I, when we're both out on game drive, we like to help each other out with leopards. Oh, look at that, everybody. That is... Oh. Now Mom's okay. Now Mom says, I love you. Here's your bath. This is me reminding you that I love you. It's okay that you made me walk around for an hour and call and call and call and call and call before you came. Absolutely magic. Claudia, you're curious when hashtag not Barba. Sorry, it still makes me laugh every time. You're curious when Shadow's youngster will be getting a name. So, Claudia, in most places, when they're around 2 years old, the females get a name, and then when the males become fully independent and have their own territory, sorry, not fully independent, but when they have their own territory, which is usually around 3 to 4 years old, sometimes a little bit older, they get a name. And they usually get a name to the place where they move to. And sometimes the name relates to where they came from. So, we used to work with a male, now it's forgetting the name, all of a sudden it just flew out of my head, but basically he was named after his mother, who was named after a dam from where he came from. Now, something I've noticed is that here, a lot of the leopards get names a lot earlier on, so I'm thinking that she might get a name earlier, but I think that has more to do with either the way the Northern Sands works, or possibly with the influence of weave while we're here. So I'm guessing that hashtag not Barba will probably get a proper Shungan name within the next 6 months. This is too great, everybody. All right, everyone. They're moving over towards where... Oh, maybe not. Shadow, can you go to Treehouse Dam for me? That would make me very happy. That would keep you on Djuma. Tristan has a spotted surprise! I'm so excited. Let's go to Tristan.
Indeed I do. Look who we found, my favorite boy of them all. And so we were driving down the road looking for tracks. We didn't see anything. I decided to come back onto where we turned off just now with all of you, and we then found tracks crossing the road. And so I walked in here a little bit and I walked along, and I didn't see much, and I was coming back towards the car, and then VM said to me, he's right there next to you. And so there's our boy just on top of a termite mound. How cool is this that we've managed to find him? It was perfect. We managed to find nice fresh tracks, and now he's just sitting on the top of a mound looking as beautiful as ever, and he is looking so big since I last saw him. I haven't seen Thamba in ages, so I'm super excited that we managed to catch up with him. What I think I might do is just go around the other side, because poor Viam's shooting right into the sun. So no, you're right, Viam. Cool. Okay, perfect. So I don't want to blind Viam with the camera, but he says he's okay where he is, so we'll just stay here then for now. But he's obviously been resting up there, and he was just probably watching me as I walked around. I was no more than, I would say, 10 meters from where he was when he just decided to carry on sort of lying down, and VM then spotted him. All right, VM, well, unfortunately we are going to have to move now. It'll be nice if he stays on that mound a little bit later, because the sun behind him will be very, very nice just now. So if he just stays up there, it's going to be absolutely perfect. That'll be really, really good. Now, I believe a lot of you are saying yay and woohoo. Well, it's very, very cool to see our boy back on the Djuma side of things, because he's been a bit absent of late. He's been hanging around far too much to the south of us, and so it's really nice that he's this side. Vildi, is that okay? I know it's not fantastic because there's a lot of long grass there, but at least he's made his way back in this direction, and hopefully he's going to spend a number of days here. So it was an incredibly good spot from Wiem, him able to see it on top of the termite mound, and certainly if we hadn't spotted the tracks and stopped, we don't think we would have been able to find him. But he's looking very sleepy this afternoon. I'm sure he had a long day yesterday, because the last tracks that there were for Thamba were going south in the nets towards Double M boundary, and that was 2-3 days ago, and now he's all the way up here on the northern side of Djuma. So he's obviously had a fairly long walk, but I'm certainly not sad to see him, that's for sure. I'm glad that he's back in this side of the world. He is such a beautiful cat, and so hopefully he's going to stick around for the next couple of days, because I would love to spend a lot more time with him as he gets a little older, and so he starts to become, you know, getting pushed out by a lot of the other males. So he's going to probably spend less and less time here. So the time that we get now is all very valuable and certainly worth every minute. Now, hopefully, like I say, he does decide to wake up at some point, because he is starting to look sleepy, and I wouldn't be surprised if that head goes down. And if it does, we're going to have a bit of a struggle to actually see him through all of that grass. Although, there we go. Hello, boy. Look at how beautiful those eyes are. And he's still got his pink nose. Is the easiest way to identify Thamba, is very pink nose and then these sort of light bluey green colored eyes. They're incredibly pretty eyes that he's got, and you find when the sun hits them, they actually change a little bit. They take on more of that sun tone because of how light they are. But he really is a stunning cat, and you can see how dark his markings are as well. Right, well, we'll sit with Thamba for most of the afternoon. We're certainly going to enjoy every minute that we can with him. And while we do that, let's go back across to Noel, who's got Shadow and Cub back together, and I believe they are starting to move about.
All right, everyone, they have moved off into Little Gallery, and we're just getting the last little look. That's the little youngster moving off there. And that, for us, for this afternoon, will be the end of the Shadow and her youngster saga. What incredible interaction and footage we had, and what an incredible time I hope all of you had enjoying how a mum finds her little one, and the little one finally listening, and then they carry on. I think from here, since we're having such a roll with leopards, I think we might go actually look for Tundi, because it's cooling down. So Tristan's done really well with Thamba, and I don't want to keep you too long for him, and I think what we're going to do is turn around and go have a look for her. And so let's have a look at him on that beautiful termite mound, and then when, hopefully, crossing fingers, holding thumbs, we'll find Tundi and the little one for you.
Well, I'm sure Tundi can't be too far. I went past earlier, just checked on Ingwe Alley at those mud wallows, and also checked around where we had her and the cub yesterday afternoon. No sign of her, but I think she must be somewhere close by, maybe in that drainage line just to the north of where Shadow and Cub were, and maybe she'll come out now that it's starting to cool down a bit and there's a bit of a breeze blowing. Maybe she'll just start moving back towards her cub and do exactly what Shadow's done and try and reunite and make sure everybody is safe and everything is fine. So hopefully Noel will get lucky. You can see Thamba's very curious about something all of a sudden. He's kind of ducking his head down. Now, when I was walking past here a few minutes ago, I saw a couple scrub hares run away from me, and there was also baboons close by. So maybe he's managed to find some sort of, or managed to see a baboon, and he's just trying to duck down and hide low from them. It's also why he might have gone up onto the termite mound, just so he can get a better vantage point of what's going on around him. But he is seriously beautiful, and his head is getting massive now. He's starting to get that big bulky male head that Hosanna has already developed. Doesn't seem to have a dewlap just yet like Hosanna's got. Hosanna's starting to develop this little sort of dewlap that's coming down from the chin. He doesn't seem to have that characteristic just yet. So, Paula, you're wondering if the leopards' noses change colour as they age. Well, it depends on the individuals. You know, normally in a situation you'll find that their noses go from pink to a more blackish colour as they age, and little black spots start to develop on the nose as they get a little older. But in some leopards' case, they will stay pink. If you look at Shadow, who you've just seen now, her nose is still relatively pink, even though she's 11 years old. And you'll find that somebody like, I'm just trying to think, Tiani had a very dark nose, even when she was quite young. So before she even left Salahesh, her nose was already quite dark and black. So it just depends on a lot of factors, but generally, yes, as they age, so the nose starts to get a little darker and lose that pink coloration. But look at that eye. you see why he's got these incredible dark markings just below his eye that make his eyes stand out a little bit more. So that dark marking with the lighter color is what sort of makes them pop out a little bit, and it really does have these striking looking face and striking markings. He's an incredibly beautiful cat, and it's interesting because I've got a number of friends that have worked in a number of other reserves that are all photographers, and every single one that's seen pictures of Thamba reckon that he's one of the best looking leopards that they've seen in their time. So he really is a treat to have around, and super glad that he is here. It was a very big surprise when I saw that he was on the dam cam this morning. I honestly didn't think we would see him on Djuma again, given that he spent so long to the south of us. I would actually like to know when the last time we had Thamba on Djuma was, because I know there's been a few sightings on Chitwa and that area, but the last time we had Thamba, as far as I know, on Djuma itself must have been close to September, somewhere there. So it just gives you an idea how long it's been since we've had him, and the last time he was up here must have been easily in August, somewhere around that time. So it's been a long period since he was in this particular section, and I wonder why he's come up here. I wonder if he didn't maybe meet up with quarantine or something, and that's why he's ended up kind of scuttling northwards. He's got a good opportunity because north of us at the moment there's very little going on. I haven't heard any updates on Djuma in quite some time to our north. We know that other new male is spending most of his time to the west, and then you've got a situation where quarantine's to the east, and Tingana seems to be focusing a bit more south. So there is a little bit of a gap in this area. Mrs. Grumpy wondering how far a leopard would range from its birthplace, particularly a male leopard. As far as it needs to, until it can find a safe place in a territory in order to be able to, carve out a place for it to stay healthy and to find food and water, and as well as females. But some of the leopards that I know of in this area have gone over 50 kilometers as the crow flies. So what's that in miles? It's between sort of about 28 miles, somewhere around there, as the crow flies, which is a long way. You must imagine how much zigzagging it's done to get to that area. There's probably other leopards in places where there's a much lower density that have probably moved bigger distances than that, but here for a leopard to move 50 kilometers is very far, given how dense it is here. They've had to kind of jostle through all of those other leopards to find a place, and that male leopard was actually called Matimba, and who was in some way related to Thamba, because, well, Matimba was the last son of Safari, who is the mother of Kruger, and Kruger is the mother of Tundi, and Tundi is the mother of Thamba. So it's all a bit convoluted, but that's how it goes. Where are you off to, Thamba? So he's turned around now and he's facing the other way. VM will be very happy because VM says he wants to shoot into the sun today, so I'm going to just turn VM around and put him back on the other side. I wonder what he saw though. He just must have seen something very quickly, because he kind of shifted his head. Oh, impala's right here. So there's impalas right up against the termite mound that he's busy watching. I don't know if he's going to hunt them. He doesn't really have any cover to go to where they are, but at the end of the day, they're not very far away at all. So there the impalas are, and there's little Thamba just watching them. So impalas in front. Hello, impalas. They're busy just kind of coming along, moving towards us, and then Thamba is just watching, but look at how regal he's looking. He's getting to be a very big boy. The size of his tracks are actually quite interesting too, because I was showing VM the tracks, and he's definitely got big paws. It looks almost like Tingana's tracks, so it's an interesting size comparison between him and Tingana. But you can see he's fixated on those impalas, so I think he's just sitting watching. These impalas have no idea he's even up on this mound. It's a nice bushy mound, it's got lots of grass around it, and his camouflage will be absolutely perfect for sitting here and waiting. Walk in the road, you're wondering if it's cooler for a leopard to be up in a tree or on the ground. It depends on a lot of circumstances. Sometimes if it's been a bit of rain around, then the ground can have a much cooler feel than what up in a tree would have. It also depends on if there's a breeze. It depends on, whether that tree is in a nice big shady area or if there's direct sunlight onto the branches of the trees. So it's a lot of sort of factors that go into it. But you'll find that, and I'm sure as you've noticed over the last few days, is 99% of our sightings of leopard are not in trees. Most of them rest a lot on the ground itself, and that's because they can get in underneath a bush and guarantee themselves shade for much longer periods than lying on a tree. It's also a lot more comfortable for them. In a tree, they've kind of got to wrap their body around the tree and sit there, and try and kind of hug the tree, whereas on the ground they can lie on each side, they can roll around, they can lie on their back, they can do all kinds of different things, and that means that they stay a lot more comfortable for longer on the ground than they would in a tree. Seems as though he's almost losing interest in these impalas. He's now not even looking at them. There we go, now he's turned back towards where they are. I wonder if he wants to hunt them. When he stood up here, he's not exactly full, so he could, I suppose, do with a meal, but we'll just have to wait and see and play it by ear and check whether or not he's going to try. These impalas that we have here are all males, so they're rather large animals, and they're going to take a lot of bringing down. And as far as I know, I don't know if Thamba has yet to bring down a big male impala. I'm not 100% sure. I think he's brought down some young impalas, but don't know if he's brought down any really big impalas. Now you'll see that all of the impalas just popped up their head. I don't know if you noticed that. The reason why is there's a breeze that's blowing, and that breeze is coming from directly behind my back. So it's blowing from us to the impalas, and so I think when the breeze blows, they're picking up, hang on a second, something's around here that's foreign. Might just be us. I don't know if they're picking up leopard, because they're not really kind of staring too much, but they're definitely noticing that something's going on. But let's see how close they'll end up feeding towards us. They seem as though they're completely relaxed about what's going on, and they really have no idea that there is imminent danger. Now let's see what Thamba's going to do. He seems as though he's going to get up and just try and position himself a little bit better. I don't want to move. We're in a great spot now, so we don't have to worry about moving. We're probably not going to get the best view of Thamba at this stage, but let's just sit and be patient and hope that these impalas start to worm their way a little bit closer to us, and then Thamba can come flying out of that bush. But this stage, I think it's going to be a patience game from him and a patience game for us as we wait for the impalas to come a little bit closer. But look at him. He's definitely now getting a lot more interested than what he was just now. But he needs to stay where he is. Where he is better, because the mound that he is sitting on means that that breeze that's coming up is now going to be kind of blocked by that mound. So if he stays where he is, he's going to have a lot better sort of chance of hunting these impalas if they worm their way towards us. Now Aiden, who is 6 years old, hello Aiden, I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. You want to know what they like to eat. Well, leopards like anything. They have a very, very, very big amount of food items that they like, so they will go after things like these impalas that you see here, which are about the size of a deer, Aiden. They'll also hunt little insects, they will hunt birds, they will hunt all kinds of different things, little rabbits that we get here called scrub hares, and then any other antelope species or little sort of buck like this that are smaller than the impalas. So that's mostly what they go after. And then when they get really big, so he still has to grow a little bit, but when they get really big, then you'll find that they can even go after baby elephants, baby rhinos. So a leopard has a lot of different food to choose from. He's very, very lucky. He's not a picky eater like some of the other animals out here. But look, you see the impalas are slowly coming fairly close to us now. They're weaving their way a little bit. They're still too far out at this stage. I mean, they probably, I would say, maybe 40, 50 meters from where Thamba is, which is still a long way. He needs them to get within sort of 5, 10 meters from where he is before he's going to be able to explode out. The good thing is that they've just got no idea he's here, and so it's really a perfect situation for him. Kim, you're wondering if leopards hunt more by sight, sound, or smell? Dependent on what's going on. During the day like this, their eyesight will be hugely valuable, as will their sense of hearing. Yeah, at night, you will find that their sense of smell is often quite good, just to pick up where roughly those antelope could be, and then they use their sense of hearing a lot to pick up where they're walking. From there, now you see these impalas are running forward as though they've seen something, but it's not Thamba. Thamba's still on the mound where I am. No, they've, I think, just decided they're going to start moving. Now let's watch what happens here, because they are running. It's not close enough for him to just come flying off the mound, but they are not far at all. So I would say from where he's lying flat on the termite mound, they may be 20 meters, not even 10 meters now. They're coming onto the sort of left side of this mound, and in fact there's some that are going to walk straight towards the mound. Let's just sit nice and quietly and see what happens. Look, you can see he's down in the grass. Now some of these impalas are walking straight towards us. You should start seeing little horns over the top of Thamba's head shortly. So there you can see them. Look, they're coming through fairly close to where he's sitting. Now let's see what happens here. So they haven't seen him. You see, he's creeping around the mound. That snorting that you heard is just males fighting with each other, but it's almost blown his hunt because they've all run past him too far away. Had that not happened, he would have had a chance. You see, he's popped his head up now. Oh, that was so close. He had a situation where all the males were coming right towards him, and then one started chasing another one, and they all panicked and ran the wrong way. I thought some of them might run straight towards him. That was very, very cool to see. Shame poor Thamba. He's a bit bewildered because they definitely didn't see him. It was nothing to do with them seeing him at all. They just were fighting with one another, and that caused a bit of panic in them all to run. And so now Thamba's looking around as if to say, where have you all gone? Why have you left me behind? I was still trying to hunt all of you. Look, you see, looking around. I wonder if he's going to start chasing after them. I think we're going to have to go round the mound, Vildy, otherwise we're not going to be able to see anything. It's very difficult because we're looking straight into the sun as well, so just trying to work out how I can get around. Go. Oh, that was very close. So where I'm parked right now, or where I'm driving now, is where the impalas ran. So this is how close they are. We're probably, I would say, maybe 10 to 15 meters from where Thamba was sitting. So it was very close. There's the mound right there. And you can see they would never have seen him on that mound had it not been for the fact that they started to chase each other. Poor Thamba might have got himself a nice little impala meal there. Anyway, it's all learning, part of the learning experience. He'll get it right eventually. There we go, look at that focus. I don't think it's the end of the hunt either. I think he might be still focused on them. The impalas haven't gone far. They're still right here. So you might find that he's still going to try his luck, although I think that he's going to have to be a little bit more patient and wait for it to get a little darker before he actually starts to go after these guys. But how cool is that? That's one of the reasons why I love this leopard, is because he never stops. He's always busy. Kristen, you're wondering if Thamba's ever encountered people on foot. Well, he encountered somebody on foot about 10 minutes ago. So, literally, if you look where I am now, so he's up on the mound where he is, and where the car is pointing, there's a little path that runs on the other side. So there's a path that runs there. That is where I was standing over there, looking at his tracks coming in this direction. And then I went back to the car, and then VM spotted him on the mound right here. So he has encountered people on foot. I've walked into Thamba, I think, 3 or 4 times now, and most of the time he's fairly relaxed with things. He's not too concerned about what goes on. He actually doesn't mind it too much. We're very lucky that most of our young boys are like that. Now, I think I'm going to have to reposition again because he's now lying down on the other side of the mound. So we're going to try and just reverse back and just see if we can get a better view than what we've got right now. But we're definitely going to get some epic views with this young man. He's always very busy. And so while we do that, let's go back across to Noel and see if she's had any luck with his mother.
No luck with Thamba's mother at the moment, but we are still coming to where we think she might have gone after her interaction with Shadow. We're heading back to where Tristan, where Don and I were looking the other morning for hours, and then where Tristan went yesterday afternoon, and lo and behold, there she was. As we know, Tristan and Thandi have a very special love-hate relationship, very much like mother and son sometimes. And look, I mean, there's been enough vehicles that are around that the tracks are going to be a little bit harder to find. We're also driving into the sun, which can be interesting in looking for a leopard. But I am hopeful, and I haven't seen that little cub since the 1st of January, so I'd really like to see it. Michelle, you're curious if leopards are the same as lions as to when they have cubs. So, Michelle, leopard and lion have cub any time of the year, so in that way they're very similar. They also have a very similar gestation period, maybe 10 days apart, roughly. So yeah, in those ways they're similar. They're also similar in sort of where they stash their cubs. Leopards tend to do a little bit more of hiding inside termite mounds, and lions a little bit less of that. But yeah, in those ways they're very similar, that's for sure. I mean, it's a predator with a very small bleating little organism that it has to take care of. So yeah, those things are very similar. And their mother instincts in general kick in really well, although you will end up with some leopard and lion females that are not good mothers. I used to work with a lioness who would take care of her cubs for the first 2 months, sometimes 3 months, and then she would just leave them. And that would be it. And she would do that constantly. They're also similar in the fact that, let's say they do lose cubs, they will immediately start going back into estrus, back into being ready to mate with, and then get pregnant again, if it so chooses to. Oh, baboon or vervet monkey tracks. All right, so now we're thinking that she's somewhere in here. There's a little 2-track we want to try up ahead. But this is the last place that we knew, well, other than this morning, the last place that we knew she had the cub. And because she had the altercation with Shadow, it wouldn't surprise me if she didn't come straight back to where the cub is just to check on it. But then again, I'm not inside Tundi's brain, so you never know. Keep looking in the trees as well. Do we know the last time Tundi had a kill? I'm trying to think. Oh, she did. It was a couple of days ago. So she will probably still be full from that. But you never know. She might be on the lookout for something else. I think while we're busy searching, let's head back to Tristan, who still has Thamba. I'm still jealous I haven't seen him, but let's head on over to him so you all can see him.
Well, he's now starting to fall back asleep again, so he's back to his original position from where we first started, and his eyes are getting heavy, and he's watching the impalas just disappear and move off down towards the dam. So those lucky impalas made a great escape, and now I think little Thamba's going to rest, and he might then head after those impalas a little bit later when it gets darker, but for now it's still time just to sort of bathe in the golden light that we're starting to get. It's going to be a very pretty sunrise just now. So Aiden, who's 6 years old, and Aiden now wants to know, how does Thamba take a bath? Well, Aiden, he doesn't have the luxury of having mom to run the bath for him, make sure the temperature is really nice, and so he has to clean himself, unfortunately, which means he's got to use his tongue. So he has a tongue that's very different from yours, Aiden. If you stick your tongue out and you touch it, you're going to feel that it's quite soft and squishy. Now, with his tongue, it is soft and squishy, but it's covered in little hairs that are like hooks, and it feels like sandpaper. I don't know if you know what sandpaper is, Aiden, but if you try and kind of make wood smooth, there's a paper that you use that is very, very rough, and that means that when he licks his coat, that those hooks and those hairs pull off all the dirt. So it gets rid of the sand, it gets rid of the dust, it gets rid of any parasites. And when we talk about parasites, we talk about insects that like to feed off his blood. So things like a tick, that would be a problem, fleas, those kind of things. He's going to clean those off using his tongue, and that's how he baths himself, is by licking himself and using his tongue to wash all over the place. And where he can't reach with his tongue, he will wipe on his paw and make his paw wet, and then he wipes with his paw and then keeps doing that, and that's how he's able to clean behind his ears and on top of his head, which is a very difficult place to reach if you're a leopard. It's very funny to watch them, and hopefully we'll see him do it. Normally when leopards wake up and they start moving, so maybe if he's going to leave the termite mound, then you'll find that he'll start to do that grooming process, and he'll try and clean himself up before he starts to try and go looking for food or maybe a drink. Given how hot it's been today, I think he might decide to go looking for a bit of water at some point. But he's so beautiful in the grass, and you can see why it's difficult to spot these cats sometimes. In that area there is what you're looking at. Those spots just completely break up the outline and make it actually quite tough to see. So that's the view that we've got from sitting in the car, is if you didn't really look very hard, you would easily miss that spotted little face in amongst the grass, because, well, the bits of light and dark help camouflage this cat incredibly well. So, Lynn, you're asking a very interesting question, and one that has been discussed quite a bit. And so Lynn wants to know whether or not a leopard who has more than one cub, so if she has 2 or 3 cubs, can there be multiple fathers? So, Lynn, yes, they can be. There can be different parents for the litter mates. So you can have a situation, hypothetically, let's say Thamba did have a sibling, but let's say both of those siblings were born, and it could have been that Tingana mated with Tundi, and it could have mean that Quarantine mated with Tundi, and then each one could have fertilized an egg, and then you had the two cubs being born, and they could have different fathers. And it's a very interesting topic at the moment, because we have a group of people in the area called Panthera. Now, Panthera is a global organization that is busy studying big cats all across the world, and they've got a study on at the moment about working out genetic DNA and trying to work out paternity and maternity of leopards. And so they've worked out through the studies of the dung that they get from all of these different leopards that there are multiple parents in the same litter. So it's a very interesting thing, and hypothetically there could be a situation where it's different fathers even though the two cubs were born at the same time. So quite an interesting way of things, and you sometimes see cubs that look a little bit different to each other. It's a weird thing when you get two that are born in the same litter and they seem a little different in appearance. They generally have something about their mother, but they sometimes have different ears or different eyes or different sort of shape, and then you can think to yourself, well, maybe there was a different male involved. And females ultimately do search out as many males as they can in their territory to try and cover any possibility or any eventuality as to what might happen going forward. You never know if one of the males are surrounding the dominant male where she is comes in and pushes that dominant male out, and so she'll go out of her territory to mate with all the males around her to ensure that cub and the litter that she's about to have going forward, which is very, very clever thinking. The best exponent of it, I think, was probably Karula, well, from what I've seen. I once found Karula going into Singita Londolozi from that corner. Now, she was dominant around Djuma at the time, well, as she always was. And that is a very, very far sort of way to go. She went through Shadow's territory, then she went through Salahesh's territory, then she went through Moya's territory, and she was going into Ingrid Dam's territory eventually when we found her mating with then when Tingana was down that side of the world. And so it just goes to show how far she went, and ultimately it proved very successful because she mated with Tingana, had the cubs. Tingana subsequently was pushed by Anderson and ended up being dominant exactly where she was in the heart of her territory. So it's a very clever move from a leopardess to do that. And like I say, Karula was incredibly shrewd in the way that she used to go around all over the place to mate with all these fringe males so that she ensured that her cubs were safe no matter what happened, which is an incredible way to do things, and very, very interesting to know that the males see those cubs as potentially theirs because they pick up the scent of the female and associate that with mating that they've already had. But he's doing his very best impression to hide behind the grass. You can just see the ear moves every now and then when I talk, but otherwise he's really not too perturbed by anything. I think it's been a warm day, and so poor Thamba is probably a little on the hot side, and that's why he's just taking it easy. Stacey, you're wondering if there's any females in Djuma that Thamba is not related to. Of the females we see, no. So Thandi is obviously his mom, Shadow is his aunt, Not Barbara is his cousin. It's a bit difficult, that one, because actually Tingana could be the father and therefore they share the same father but different mothers, so that's a bit of a conundrum to work out. Kuchava is his sister, and that's it. So maybe if we saw Ingrid Dam young female, or Shadulu female as she's now known, that could be a different lineage to what Thamba is, but otherwise no, there's very few females around here that would be different. I know there should be Shaluva to the north and then also in Kanyeni to the far east, but the chance of him going in those areas is very seldom, and we certainly don't see those leopards very much anymore. Now that we don't go to Cheetah Plains, we don't see in Kanyeni at all, so we can't really count that as a Djuma leopard. But the females we do see on Djuma are all related. In fact, this whole group of individuals around Djuma at the moment is because of how successful Karula was. So we have a lineage that she's managed to spread, and that actually goes back way towards the end of the, well, to the beginning when Safari was very successful, and she managed to carve out a lineage here for Karula, and then Karula obviously spread that on to Shadow and Thandi, and now Thandi and Shadow have spread that down, and we have these two young boys in the form of Hasana and Thamba, and then we've got Not Barbara, and obviously now Thandi's new cub, Kuchava's new cubs, should we get to see them at some point. I don't know how many there are, if there's one, two, or more, but it just goes to show that the whole area is populated with the offspring from those females. Now, he is starting to yawn. Maybe he's going to start doing a bit of grooming and decide to start walking. It's often good when you see a cat yawning. It sometimes means that they might stand up and start to get going and decide that it's time to go on a little walkies. I hope so, because it would be nice to see Thamba going on about his business, especially down to a nice waterhole and have a drink facing the afternoon light. That would be a little bit of a sort of dream sighting. In this light especially, you can see how Goldie's looking. The sun is just getting to that perfect time and the perfect color for when you want to be following leopards around. Right, well, he's still sitting, he's still kind of taking his time, so we'll be patient. If he does start to get up, then obviously we will follow him, but while we wait for that, let's go back across to Noelle, who I believe is still bumbling about, and hopefully she will have some success with his mother at some point.
No success with Tundi. We checked where Tristan saw her last night and possibly where she went to after Shadow. But we had a hitchhiker that was on Dobby. It's a little stick insect. It's now sitting on my hand, and it looks exactly like a stick. I'm always amazed with them, these stick insects. And because it's on my hand and it can obviously feel when I move and things, it's sitting very, 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 very still, pretending it's a stick. Look, I mean, look at the colorations on the side there. Looks just like bark, and the legs as well. Tiny little antennae. Now, something I was always told is that the larger the antennae for the species, the more likely it's a male, and the smaller it's a female, and or thick and thin. There are many, many, many different types of stick insect out here, so I'm not quite sure which exact one this is, but I would hesitate, I guess, to say that this is a female one, just from how tiny those look. Excuse my dirty fingers, I've been in the bush for a good few hours now, and also quite thin. Now, I feel a little bit bad. I think maybe we should set you free. I'm so sorry that we took you away from your home as we were boondu bashing. Let's put you over here. Free the stick insect. Hopefully it doesn't run into too many problems with other stick insects. Here you go, my friend. Can go blend in. Sorry, I jiggled the camera there. Excuse me. Alright, so I'm thinking because we didn't find Tundi there, we might go check her old den site and just see. We might get lucky in the last few minutes drive, so that's where we're going to head now. We're not too far, and crossing fingers, holding thumbs. Let's see what happens. Maybe we get her on the road. It's a really nice afternoon. Tesla, hello. I heard you in a long time, sweetie. You had a very good Christmas and a very happy New Year. Tesla, as far as I know, most stick insects eat vegetation, like leaves and things. But it wouldn't surprise me if some of the larger ones were possibly insect eaters as well. I'm not sure. James Richard, if you're out there, you can correct me if I was wrong on any of that, and I can also do a little bit of homework for all of you, but that would be my guess, sweetie. Tesla, what did you get from Santa? I would be curious to know. If you were good, that is. And I think you probably were. So Lady Starfire, you're saying that one of Tesla's friends gave her a little stuffed leopard toy, one of her friends from school, because of how much she talks about Safari Live at recess. Tesla, that's fantastic. I hope you enjoy your little plushie. Did you name the leopard cub, or the toy leopard? If you had to name the leopard cub, I'm going to hazard a guess. Maybe you named it Tundi, but maybe it's a boy, and then maybe you named it Hasana. Let me know. I'd be curious to know. That's very cool. Okay. So we're just checking around in here. Now let's go back to another little leopard, our little Thamba, while we're busy searching for Tundi and her tiny, tiny little cub that's probably about the size of Tesla's little plushie.
Well, I would imagine so. Thamba, although he's getting big now, he's starting to get massive. You can see that massive paw through the grass, and, well, our yawning didn't really develop into very much. He's just put his head down and is now trying to have a little bit of a nap. So he's a sleepy cat for now, and I would imagine that we're going to see a situation where he's going to probably sleep for most of the afternoon. I don't think he's going to get up to too much. It's still too warm. You might find he'll go down towards the dam again late in the evening. Now, I've got an issue with my radio, which I'm just trying to sort out quickly. I don't know why it's making so much noise, but my radio is beeping in my ear, which is never a fun experience. So we're going to try to sort that out quickly. Well, I don't know where my radio is that it's beeping at me. Is it right behind me? Am I leaning on it?
In your camera bag.
Ah, okay. So there it is. No wonder it's making lots of noise. There we go. Now it's out the way. It will stop beeping in my ear, and that will be far more comfortable for my ears itself. But I think that's what we're going to be left with for now. It's still, like I say, very warm considering, and the sun is still up, and while it is a nice time of the day for us as people, I think this leopard is still waiting for it to be a little bit cooler and darker before he decides to do too much. And ultimately there's not really much going on anymore. The impalas have disappeared, the baboons have gone, scrub hares have run away, and so I suppose it's time just to have a really good nap. Nonetheless, still nice just to be around him. Hello, boy. Look at that look. He's got very serious eyes, as James always says. He's such a serious cat. He's not like Wasano, who generally displays a much more sort of goofy side to him. Thamba always looks as though he's very all about business, even though he's not. He tends to interact with everything, but he always looks as though he's on some sort of mission, that he's busy staring and analysing everything that's around him, and everything is all about business and not much play at this stage of the day. It's Saturday, Thamba. You must take it easy, buddy. I suppose he is taking it. Maybe he had a big Friday night. Who knows? Maybe Friday night was a heavy one. What do you think, Vildy? That's why he came home at 2 a.m. Yes, Vildy. He's been having a big holiday for the last 6 months. He had a gap year, as they call it, and he's went and had a big holiday, and now he got home at 2 a.m. and so he's feeling very sheepish and is now sleeping. That's what VM reckons. I think he might be onto something, VM. I think he might be. You think he's in trouble with Thandi at the moment?
Yeah.
You think so? I think so too. I think he's in trouble with Thandi at the moment as well, and that's why she's not talking to him, and she decided, well, she's going to have another child because her other son, well, her only son at this stage, is being naughty and is doing his own thing. Of course, we're just talking absolute nonsense. That's not the case at all. She's probably pushed him away more than anything else, but seems like a funny thing to think about. It would be nice if he stood up, because the light at the moment is just that good that if he... Oh, there we go. Now, Thamba, where are you going to go? Are you going to lie on that side? He's very obliging. Yes, Kirsty is a wonderful individual because he is so obliging with these kind of things. VM, do you want your sunset leopard shot?
Yes.
You do? Yes, well, now's the time, VM. Let's do it. Let's try and get you your sunset leopard shot. Hopefully he will be as obliging as he now was when he stood up like that, and that he'll stay there for VM, because VM loves a good sunset leopard shot. When was the last time you got a sunset leopard shot, VM? Was it with Tingana in the tree with James all those months ago before the Mara? Every so often, okay. Well, hopefully this will be a winning one. Let's try and have a little look, VM. It's the best thing about being with VM on drive is that he loves leopards as much as I do, and so he's quite happy for me to drive around looking for leopards all day, every day, and thoroughly enjoys when we do. Oh no, Thamba. It would have been so good. He was standing in the perfect place with the sun right behind him. It would have been absolutely perfect, but he's now decided it's time to move. So, well, are you going to sit there now? Okay. Well, we'll come and get you round. But it was perfect. The sun was lying right behind where he was standing, and he just moved as we kind of lined up the shot. Sorry, Vildy. It took too long to get there. Right. Let's get across and around, because we're not going to get much of the sun behind him. Let's rather get the sun on him, because that will be quite pretty as well. And he's lying in a much better spot now for VM to film him with this nice sunshine. There we go. Hello, boy. So the sun's he's almost got some nice shade there. It's just his head that's poking out, and he's looking to the north of us. I wonder if maybe there's not another wave of impalas coming down this way or something that he's interested in, because he kind of looked this way and then positioned himself, and he keeps staring towards the north. So I wonder if maybe just something is moving around behind us. There could obviously be duiker, steenbok, scrub hares, warthogs. There's a number of different things that utilize this area. We're just north of the dam, so we're about, I would say, 600 meters north of the dam, 700 meters, so it's not too far. Lots of things come down for a drink. So first lady, you're going to bring up something that was everybody thinks about, but I don't think really anyone really talks about it. But you want to know whether I think he's got Mvula's eyes. Well, yes. So Wiem and I were actually just having this conversation right now that we think Thamba looks very much like Mvula. He's got those same big ears, light-colored eyes. And so I wonder, was it Mvula or was it Quarantine that sneakily mated with Thandi without anybody knowing? And everybody's kind of given Tingana the credit, but maybe, just maybe, it was one of the others that carried that gene and kind of gave it to Thamba, because he certainly looks like all the offspring that Mvula produced with Thandi, and remember that Quarantine looks very much like Mvula as well, and in all probability Mvula was the father of Quarantine. So it's an interesting thing. I think that maybe Quarantine or Mvula maybe sneaked in there when no one was watching and has produced the sort of illegitimate child that is Thamba. But we are not sad about that at all, because, well, he is an absolutely beautiful specimen and really is one of the best looking leopards, like I say, that I've seen in my time, and many other people agree with me. So whoever it was, they certainly did a sterling effort. I think maybe Quarantine is more likely than Mvula, given that Quarantine is actually, it was at that stage just starting to push Shavambalana out. I wouldn't be surprised that maybe it could have happened. Anyway, we'll let you dwell on all of that, and while we do that, let's send you back to Noelle, who I think will be doing her last segment for the evening.
I will be, Tristan. I can't find Thandi at the moment. Maybe we come around the corner, she's there. Tesla, I believe you sent through what you named your little leopard cub. I'd be keen to know. You already have a shadow, so you named it Coconut. I think that is a very fitting name for a leopard cub. That is wonderful. Thank you, sweetie, for sharing that with us, and it's so good to have you on show. Let me just come up the hill. Oh, my goodness gracious. Poor Jigga. Jigga's been through a lot today. Coconut. Little coconut. I like it. Thanks, Tesla. All right, everybody. So it's a beautiful afternoon. The sunlight's really nice. It would be some nice lighting for Thandi, but I think let's leave her be. She had a rough morning fighting with Shadow. So Thamba seems to be on the move. So let's head back to Tristan, and I will see all of you tomorrow.
Well, Thamba is on the move, and just look at how pretty this cat is. Are you going to come right past us, Thamba? Yes, you're going to just come right in front of the vehicle, because, well, that's what he likes to do. And you've seen Thamba do this time and time again, as well as Fasana. The two boys are very at home with vehicles. So you can see he's just sort of meandering now down towards the sun, and how pretty is that, with the sun sort of setting, Thamba moving along. Now we're going to stay with him for a little bit. We're probably going to extend the show just a little bit, just to see where he goes. There's nothing around that he's hunting, and there's no real reason that we're extending, other than the fact that, well, we haven't seen Thamba in so long, and the fact that he's moving now is worthwhile, just to follow him and just see where he goes. I don't know how long we're even going to be able to keep him. He's going into very thick areas, but we're going to try nonetheless, and we're going to try and see what our little boy gets up to as he walks into the nice golden light. It's very, very pretty out here, that's for sure. It's that perfect time of the day where the grass is that bright green, and then there's this gold light filtering through it, and it just makes for an incredibly good view of things. Vildi, I'm going to go around the other way because there's lots of stumps here. So we're just going to reverse back quickly. Let's go this way. So, Joy, none of us have seen Mvula on Djuma, but I think he was seen by some of the guys on EP, Simamili Arathusa, some of the guys in the west. I think he was seen, was it yesterday or the day before? Maybe the day before. He certainly was seen recently, though. It wasn't too long ago, but he's still looking very thin, very ropey at the moment, unfortunately, which is not ideal. I did hear that he got a bit of a wildebeest at one point, and fed on that until the wild dogs came along and stole it from him, which is not ideal. But he did get some semblance of food there. I don't know how much of it, but he did get a little bit. Right, there we go. Look at how beautiful that is. There's that golden light just kind of highlighting his coat, sun setting in the background, leopard walking through the summer bush. It doesn't get any better than that. I can tell you that is the best way to spend a Saturday afternoon in my world, and hopefully in all of yours, because if you're watching, then you would absolutely be loving this too, because there is very few things as pretty as a spotty cat walking into the sunset, as far as I'm concerned. Right. Should we try and keep up with him then? Because we're going to lose him fairly quickly if we don't. It gets incredibly thick here. We're going north now in this drainage line that runs north of Djuma camp. So the camp is just to our left here. It's not very far at all. And it gets dense in here, and there's a big dip that you go through. And following through there is probably going to be impossible. So we're going to follow him as long as we can, see where he goes. But I don't know if we're going to be able to get it all the way through with him. At least we know where he's going. I'm interested, though, that he's heading slightly north, because north is into Buffelshoek, and I don't think little Thamba has been into Buffelshoek yet in his life. I think this is all sort of foreign ground. Maybe not this area that he's in now. He's been here for sure, but north of us, I don't think he spent too much time. But we can be very thankful that we found him where we did, because if he had gone further into this block, with the amount of grass and the hardness of the ground here, we wouldn't have found him. It would have been very difficult to track him any further than we did. So we are Ovium a apple juice tonight for a good spot on the mound as I was walking along. And like I say, it was Vium that actually spotted it and not me. I was walking in that area and then Vium spotted his bum. Oh, is that where you're going to lie down and roll around? Let's just catch up with him quickly, because he's rolling around. Maybe there's some dung there that he's found that he's going to roll in. Kim, you're wondering if Thamba's nose can get a sunburn. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he looks after his nose as best he can and makes sure that he stays out of the harsh sun like a good boy. And his nose is very pink, so even if he did get a sunburn, I don't think we would even know. Oh, he is such a beautiful cat. Hello, boy. Look at the size of those feet. Your feet are very big for your age. He's going to be a big lad later in life. He's certainly got massive feet for a 1.5-year-old cat. He's just over 1.5 years now. In fact, basically 1.5 years. And so he's got a long way to go before he becomes a big dominant male that's 6-7 years old. And you can imagine what bulk he's going to have at that stage. Interestingly enough, though, everybody always asks about Thamba and Hosanna and whether who's bigger and what's the story with the two of them. Well, now that I've seen Thamba again after quite some time and seeing quite a bit of Hosanna recently, Hosanna is definitely bigger now. He's got a lot more bulk than Thamba's got at the moment. His neck area is bigger than what Thamba is, but Thamba's not far behind, and given the age difference, they're very similar in the way that they're going to be built. I think both of them are going to be impressive individuals later in life, and both are going to present a very, very pretty picture to wherever they go and present a dominant force, hopefully, in any area that they end up being dominant. But it seems as though he's found himself a place to rest. I don't think he's going to move too much from here, although he's just sitting and looking around. Now, Kirsty, you want to know if he's got a wound in his stomach. He does have a little wound there, doesn't he? Oh, I wonder what happened to him. It's healed up quite a bit. You can see there's some granulation of the tissue. Now, I'm not talking about the granules of sand. Those are not part of the sort of granulation that I'm talking about, but you can see that pinkish tissue that's closing up there. So he does have a bit of a wound. Maybe that's why he's up here. Maybe somebody chased him out from Mala side or Net side, and he's now gotten up in this area. It's an interesting kind of wound, though. It doesn't really look like a bite mark. It looks more like a little sort of stump, or maybe I don't know, antelope horn or something that maybe nicked him there. Difficult to say without really knowing, but he's definitely got a little sort of wound on his tummy, but that will all heal up eventually. Right, well, unfortunately, I don't think he's going to do too much more, so we've extended a little bit just to see what he got up to, but I think he's going to sleep and spend most of his time here, so it's going to be the end of the sunset safari for all of us. It's been an absolutely wonderful Saturday by the sounds of things. We've had high action with the sisters and lots of chasing around. There's been lions in the Mara, all kinds of things happening all over the place, and well, for me, the best way is to finish the days with little Thamba, so I'm thoroughly happy that I managed to find him this evening. Vildi, are you happy to see him? Absolutely. There we go. Vildi's also happy. So from myself and all the other guides that have been out this afternoon, Kirsty and Megan in final control, we'll see you all tomorrow on the Sunrise Safari.